Welcome to the November edition of the M365 Government Community Call. My name is Jay Leask, and with me, two of the three usual suspects, Sarah Gilbert and Jeremy Woods. Sarah, Jeremy, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Surviving.
Together we are Sarah me. So
holidays are coming, right?
I did so well. I didn't do it this show.
Nice.
Yes, yeah, we just found out that we will have somewhere between 4 and 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3, whatever that adds up to, guests in our house for Thanksgiving, which is a wonderful blessing and insanity both at the same time. So,
that's awesome.
Jeez, I could imagine.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have Rima with us today. She has been out sick for a few days, and felt terrible when I talked to her, but I told her to go get healthy. We do have a great show for you, though. The play on the letter G in MS Ignite and whether or not that stands for government. I'm very excited to have that discussion here in a little bit. Might be one of our more controversial shows in a while, but I'm looking forward to it.
Wow.
Oh man! Before we do that,
on that note, let's talk community events.
Right? Jeez, I was Carmen Sandiego for Halloween, and now I'm gonna find some events and a modicum of dignity.
Oh,
Modicum.
Oh, Jeremy, kick us off and get us out of here.
All right. Well, as always, the NARA Microsoft 365 user group is fantastic. It just happened last week. The guest was from the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. They have an information governance unit, and the manager for that unit came and talked about how they're leveraging the solution. It was really great opportunity to interact and share. So that NARA group is more than federal. It includes state and local government.
Oh, awesome.
All of us have records responsibilities. So the next meeting is tentatively December 1st, because it's always the first Thursday of the month, unless the speaker needs it to be shifted. So just be aware of that. We don't have a topic yet, but always watch for that date. And as always, go to the max.gov. We'll put the link in the chat, the max.gov community for government people. You can see all the information.
Jeremy, completely off topic, and feel free to say, Jay, let's make this an episode another time. When do we think that the regulations on federal agencies about records are going to get pushed down to the supply chain? When do we think that the DIB or federal SIs or even state and local SIs are going to be required to treat their information on their networks as records just as much as the government does?
Ooh,
has that topic been broached?
I don't think it has been broached. I talked to Bethany, who runs that group, because she's like the NARA, right? And let's see if she can get that topic on her schedule.
All right, there it is.
I'll make a prompt. She's always looking for ideas on topics, and I think that is a good one, because it's very similar to the challenge we're having on the other side of supply chain, which is the software at the station and making sure we're following secure development processes. But I think you're right on from a records perspective. How do I know that they are doing what they need to do in compliance with government?
I mean, there's totally the risk of a shadow records send stuff over there, because over there we're not judged by the same regulations as we are over here. Anyway,
it's a very good point. I'll mention it.
I look forward to that debate. Okay, Sarah, you're up.
Happening now, so November 8th through 10th, and then also again 14th through 17th. So not now. That one's later.
A little
Copy
now, a
edited
little
again.
later.
Is yeah, well, you know
First
it.
Halloween pun of the episode.
Right, exactly. Is the FedMake hackathon, Sarah. And it's exclusively for our Microsoft Federal customers. And it's in the Reston garage. Yeah,
I was just talking
where you guys are near.
That's right.
And it's a no-cost in-person hands-on hackathon. And it's facilitated by Microsoft experts, and included as a service for the Microsoft 365 Enterprise Agreement. Just saying. So
interesting. So that is a paid
is,
event, but like paid as part of your subscription.
It is indeed. So if you are, part of that federal fam, you should definitely check it out if you're in the area. And also register. You shouldn't really show up to a party uninvited, and especially not bringing any party favors.
I was going to say, if you do, at least bring a bottle of wine. Oh,
right?
man. Well, so tomorrow on the 9th, we have the DC Power Platform doing a section on Power Pages development with Michelle Sanchez and Abdul Wahab.
November 10th, SharePoint user group of DC on Power Platform in the federal space with Ed Williams.
And then on the 11th, and I apologized last month, and I'm going to do it again this month, but you get to hear about it twice. Go to m365chicago.com and register right now before we shut registration down for the all-day free event. It's a community event on M365, and there will be topics on all sorts of M365 stuff. So go look at the schedule and see if one of those topics is specifically relevant to you, because there probably will be.
I plug it. I give it a plug.
Are you speaking this year, Jeremy? Did you get in?
I'm not. I've got way too many things going on all at once. So
I know that feeling.
I'll catch.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Some amazing speakers, and just like we're going to talk about later on why is Ignite relevant to government, I would say these user group activities are relevant to government, and you'll hear more about why later.
Conversations happen online and offline as well. And then November 29th, Microsoft 365 Meetup for Government. Their session is on identity, credential, and access management, or ICAM, because we're government and we love our acronyms for no reason in a Microsoft 365 environment. So be sure to check that out.
Oh,
I'm sure there's a reason.
Not here, so I'm going to do Rima's
do it.
update. So
put on your best, Rima.
It'll be nowhere near as good because she knows far more about the product than I do.
Yes.
But in October, what's been released, Teams, if you use Microsoft Teams and you happen to use it with PTSN or voice calls, you can now have hold music in GCC High and DoD. We already had it in GCC. For Microsoft Teams as well, coming soon, or just released for GCC and GCC High, is the ability to use pre-existing whiteboards. So in our meetings, so previously in meetings, if I launch a Teams meeting, I could have a whiteboard and I could do all kinds of great stuff, but I couldn't prep the whiteboard beforehand. Like if I wanted to do an exercise, maybe human-centered design or anything along those lines, you had to go into the meeting and start it first.
Hold on, I can do that?
Yes, you didn't know that? You can prep. Yeah, you can do
I can take an existing whiteboard and add it to my meeting?
Yes.
Can I only do that once, or can I add it to another meeting in the future?
I don't think there's a limit on adding it. I think it's when you're in the meeting, you go, shoop, add in, use it, because maybe it's something you did in a different exercise, and now you're bringing it into a larger meeting. Boom, it works.
I feel like we need the graphic of like the more you know thing, like above.
Is my brain,
because he's
Jace.
A long time ago, and
is my brain smoking right now? I wouldn't be surprised if Debbie did that to me.
And then in Microsoft Purview, which falls into one of the important products that we talk a little bit about later, I'll probably re-mention this because of how important it is. Communications compliance now provides recommended policies so that you know how to use the tool, and I'll leave that a little bit more for later. And then Microsoft Viva, which everybody seems to love, and many government people haven't really understood what it means yet. We'll do that for another time. But first-party desktop and mobile apps are now available in GCC, which is a big deal because a lot of times that's when you finally get uptick in the product.
Yep. Yeah, that is very exciting. And Viva is taking a little bit longer to get relevant, and I get that, and that's probably a more strategic play because, frankly, the government cares more about security than they do about bells and whistles, although bells and whistles are helpful. So yeah, we'll see more, I think, from Viva. Well, we're going to see more from Viva in the commercial space on a regular basis. I suspect it will bleed its way into the government side more and more over the next 12 months. And I say that with absolutely no forward roadmap to prove it.
Well, I think
Sarah,
I think the learning piece
learn
is
should.
Yeah.
a big deal because that is a challenge like most organizations. Government's no different when we're trying to figure out how to have learning portals and all those sorts of things. So I've been following that one closely, but the rest of Viva I've not been as up on.
Fair enough. Sarah, you want to hit us up with a little bit of news from the community before we get into our actual episode?
Can do indeed. So just a few items. So the main one, like we've already seen, like in Ignite that was announced, but I'll just hit on it really quick, is Windows 365 Government now available for the cloud environments in GCC and GCC High. And then also one of our newest announcements is Microsoft Priva is now generally available to GCC, GCC High, and DoD, and this will help you to safeguard personal data, automate risk mitigation, and manage subject rights requests. And they had announced this a year ago in Microsoft Ignite, just in general, and now, like we've come around to, it's been pushed out to, government clouds now as well as commercial. So to incorporate a little bit of Andrew Lloyd Webber in here, don't cry for us, Microsoft Priva. The truth is we never left you.
Oh no.
No.
That's awesome.
My God. And on that note, thank you for giving us such an amazing transition. Well, that's enough about that. I think we've gone on far too long. And I'm very excited to actually get to the main topic of the day. So today we are talking about the G in Microsoft Ignite and why that G stands for government. And on the show with us to have this conversation, very excited to have you, Jesse Tedoff from Microsoft, the Senior Cloud Solution Architect on the engineering side. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hopefully I didn't butcher your last name because I meant to ask you that offline.
Nope, spot on.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, you want to tell us a little bit about like what your daily is and why you're here?
Well, when I'm not leading a team of engineers who are directly supporting government customers, I am keeping tabs on changes coming to Microsoft 365. In particular, the ones that are going to impact those government customers, to try to give them a heads up on what's coming, what isn't coming, when, and try to help them prepare for those things.
Yeah, we did an episode probably, well, I don't know, COVID time means nothing to me anymore. Somewhere between 6 and 18 months ago, we did an episode with John Moe, and we talked about how to teach a govie to fish so they could understand what was coming. So you're telling me you're the way people now can keep an eye on what's coming. That's good to hear.
One of many. It's a team effort. It takes several of us to get a comprehensive view and be able to deliver the message. But I try to do my part.
We appreciate that. I've been supporting government specific M365 people for the last 6 or so years, and through the various brandings, of course. And that is always the biggest comment we hear, right? Is it's impossible to keep up with change. We never know what's coming. The roadmap isn't clear. And we've seen a lot of those changes come from Microsoft. I remember when the Teams team first started including the what's coming to GCC section of their monthly post. We have the revamped roadmap, which does an amazing job at telling you not just what features are coming, but in which environment it's coming, which is really cool. So, thank you for being one of many that helps people be aware of what's coming, man.
Glad to do my part, as I said.
So as I mentioned, the show here is the G in MS Ignite. Is that for government, right? let me make a loud noise and drop stuff. So over the years, we hear a lot of my customers saying, I'm not going to Ignite. I don't pay attention. And even though it's remote, there's no reason for me to watch. And ultimately, they've had a very appropriate concern, which is it's all stuff that's either so far ahead that by the time it comes to me, it's going to be completely different, or it's commercial focused. Do you have thoughts about what Microsoft has done in that arena and how relevant that statement is today?
I mean, I can understand why a lot of the IT managers, executives, and the engineers in the government space might feel that way, but I don't think it's as relevant as the development cycles have changed. I think it's important for our customers to keep tabs and try to attend Ignite, pay attention to what's coming out, because it takes so much time, especially in the government space as opposed to commercial, to absorb new features, to train users, to put documentation together, to get it approved by the cybersecurity folks. In some cases, it's a matter of deciding whether they want to use the feature, and if not, have it disabled or find out how to disable it. That's something that comes up with government customers a lot. If something is coming in and they're not comfortable with turning it on, they want to know when exactly is it coming so we can be prepared for it. And if they do want to use it, they want to find out all about it, how long it's going to take before it comes to their tenant. Just a lot going on there.
Wow, I would totally agree with Jesse. As a government person, we want it turned off by default.
Yeah.
It drives crazy that it's not off by default. Things like Power Automate and Power Apps, because we've got to build governance frameworks. We got to build education and training to tell people how to use this and what the restrictions and the rules of the road. A lot of systems we roll out in government, you have to have rules of behavior that people have to put on before you can access it. Yeah, and then of course, like Jesse said, I completely agree. The governance cycle for us to even get it through security, it takes a long time to get where we all agree. What does it look like in a government space?
Yeah, people don't realize, I think the obstacle, there are just inherently more obstacles to make something for the government cloud. You're not going to put in a pond in the middle of an open field with nothing in between you and the pond. Sometimes there's trees or other buildings you have to navigate around, and you can't just bulldoze your way through the equipment. My metaphors are weird because the coffee hasn't kicked in. So, but I feel like that's accurate.
Yeah. Well, and Sarah, what you talked about in the news too, right? We are seeing evidence that Microsoft is pushing harder and harder. And if you didn't pay attention to Ignite last year, you might have missed that Priva was announced. Priva is you might have missed that it was announced.
I still
What it is less important. What the reason it's important though right now, Sarah's already talked about that. The reason it's important right now is that, 13 months ago, it was announced as a new thing. And here we are this month, it was actually announced general availability across all three of the national environments. So it's in GCC, it's in GCC High, and it's in DoD. So if you didn't attend Ignite, if you didn't pay attention to those announcements, you didn't have the benefit of those 13 months to plan for what's coming. And yes, while some of the features won't come, you won't know what to pay attention to if you don't pay attention.
Speaking of that, what announcements did you see at Ignite, Jesse, that you felt were relevant to Gov IT people like ourselves?
Well, the biggest one I've been hearing about is the Windows 365 coming to the government cloud. It's just a major shift in what we can offer government customers in terms of a kind of end-to-end solution, from devices, computers, all the way into accessing their data, securing their data, and having everything kind of at the fingertips of the engineers and admins to make it all work.
Yeah, I love when they provide solutions for that. And then like also like you were saying, Jay, how like the G is for government. I love that like not only was it announced at Ignite, it was announced and talked about by Satya himself
Yeah.
in his keynote. Like to me, that was a pretty big thing. Like I remember even like live when it was happening, talking in the GovIT Discord. Hello. I know they watch this. I was saying like, oh yeah, a big announcement is coming, and they're like, where? And I'm like, from Satya, watch the thing. Like so, and I remember a lot of people being like, wow, that's actually, he actually talked about it. So I like seeing that this is more at the forefront, especially considering like, with what's happening in our current landscape, with the announcement of the, what was it, $1.2 trillion being invested into critical infrastructure, there's definitely a spotlight on government that I think is going to continue to be there.
Yeah. And that spotlight I think is relevant not just because of the government, but because of their entire supply chain too. The defense industrial base, for example, is heavily invested in the success of GCC High. I was having a conversation with a partner of ours yesterday who said, yeah, the defense industrial base, that is the last 5 years priority. I think the next 5 years priority is going to be critical infrastructure all across. It's going to be transportation. It's going to be all the federal civilian branches, the financials, all of the people who support them are going to go through their own version of what the DIB has gone through for the past 5 years. So it's really, the fact that Satya talked about Windows 365, I think that was a big deal, but I think 2-3 years from now, it's going to be the expectation is that it is going to be coming from the top. It is going to be the priority. It isn't going to be the afterthought that many government engineers have considered themselves from Microsoft for years. So I'm sorry, I've started to go a little bit too far down.
It's okay. It's okay. So Jesse, I mean, I realize that was the only like explicitly government announcement that came out of Ignite this year. But since you're watching for things to let your customers know, hey, these are things that are coming. Was there any other announcements that you think would be of particular interest to your customers based on the technology suites that they leverage?
That could be a tricky one.
So hold on, we'll put right across the screen.
Yeah,
this is not a forward, guarantee statement type of thing.
So when we're looking at announcements, whether it's Ignite or roadmap, what are things that you think are important to government that we would want to know about, and whether it's your customer or in general, right? I want you to speak for your customer.
Well, I mean, it's not so much Ignite, but because it's government, there's, unlike in the commercial space where things are cordoned off, or what's the word I'm looking for, where things are locked down.
Right.
Private companies don't want other private companies knowing what they're up to, unless they're partners. But in government, it's almost like all the agencies or many of the agencies are partners or fall under the same parent agency, like with, say, Department of Transportation, there are several agencies within that which run their own spaces autonomously, but then they also work together. So collaboration is a big part of that. Secure collaboration, making sure that if someone in one agency is accessing something in another agency, that there's protection in place,
right,
to make sure that that's done according to government requirements.
Yep.
Defender is a huge part of that. Azure is a huge part of that, making sure that if you're on a certain device in a certain place, you can or can't get to SharePoint or your Exchange mailbox. So those are really the hot ticket items that our customers are interested in.
That's zero trust principle right there. Absolutely.
Yeah. I saw that Defender for DevOps was announced, and also there's a public preview for, was it Entra? That the Entra identity management. That sounds similar to what the area of conversation you're talking about there. So it does sound like there was a lot on the security side that the federal government should be paying attention to.
Yeah, very much so. Things are being announced in the roadmap every month, every week, and it's important for customers and government to keep tabs on those things, find out about them, and especially if Microsoft is going to make announcements such as they do at Ignite, or some of the other events that we make available. It behooves them to pay attention to those things, ask their account teams, support teams on our side what those things are about.
Right.
We'll often get questions about, is this compliant? Does this meet the requirements of some NIST bulletin or FedRAMP or something like that? So it takes time to make sure that everybody within an agency is satisfied that that's the case. So I'll leave it at that.
No, that's an interesting point. So that's something I mentioned on a previous episode many months ago. When Microsoft rolled out bookings, when they first rolled out bookings, they said it's available to government, kind of like they say Yammer is available to government, and it's not cloud whatsoever.
Right.
And I know that's changed for bookings since then. They've rolled it into the compliance cloud, so now you get it on the government side. But that is an interesting point, that as a government person, just because something's announced, and even just because it's said, hey, it's now available for government, there's not an immediate I can use it. So now that I know that it's potentially available to me, I need to evaluate, like you said, from a NIST perspective, is it meeting the requirement that I need for my given work purpose?
Right. And then there were also a number of announcements on the Purview side, data lifecycle management and such. Does that tend to fall into what you've seen coming there?
Oh, definitely. Data lifecycle management is a very big part of what our customers have to nail down, lock down. So retention policies to make sure data is not destroyed before its time, capstone policies, how long. We have one customer that has to keep their email for 20 years, and used to do it a certain way when they were hosting their own data on premises, and then had to find out a whole new way to do it when they moved to Microsoft 365. So those features that are in the data lifecycle management as part of Purview are greatly important for customers and government to understand and to get very comfortable with.
Yeah, Purview is one of those things, right? Because it's got the compliance suite,
right?
And it's one of the reasons people are buying G5. Or at my previous agency, we bought the compliance suite add-on to our G3 because we wanted the advanced records management capability. And then we were beginning to examine, I mentioned in the roadmap update, Microsoft Purview now has communications compliance been there already, but now they're pushing out recommended policy actions because nobody knows how to use it. Nobody knows exactly how to get started with it. And now in all three of the government clouds, they have some recommended policies that help people get started, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so on the security side, and we'll post this link in the chat, there's a really good article with some of the top announcements on the security side, most of what we've talked about. And I think that's really, when it comes to Viva, when it comes to even features within Teams, I think those are the areas you can be more skeptical of as a government, as a government employee or someone working on the government side. The bells and whistles are gonna come eventually if everyone says, oh, look how cool that is. But this stuff on the security side that we're talking about, it may be the 6, 9, 12-month roadmap for you, but frankly, you should be looking that far out. And this stuff is the stuff that is most likely to come your way, because the security side, keeping your data secure, keeping your users, making sure you know who the people are when they log in, all of those things, I think that's really the area that Microsoft is focused on getting to you as quickly as possible. So Jesse, I appreciate you walking through that with us, walking through, especially on that security side, the importance of Defender, the importance of Purview, and giving people a few keywords to go back to the Microsoft Ignite videos and look for the Purview stuff, look for the Defender stuff, and get some watching, because that's what's coming your way.
I was glad to join you. Love the opportunity to speak about this stuff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Jesse, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you? You got the LinkedIn here on your screen. Any other good ways? You got a blog you write to often or anything?
Well, actually, there's a blog on the Microsoft Public Sector blog, so you can see what's in the roadmap there and
he blogs with us regularly, Jay.
I don't think
so.
Smile.
I don't know
so
what
large.
Yeah. You should sync up with him and see how that is.
That cup was empty. Hold on. Nope, that one's empty too. Jesse, thank you so much for being such an integral part of the public sector community, for joining us today. Promise the hand waving is most likely been edited out of this, but thank you again. We look forward to having you again soon.